Episode 5.
Are you ready to take your eBay business to the top? Well, if so, buckle up and hold on. It's time once again for So You Want to Sell on eBay with your hosts, Ron LeBeau and Ali Young.
Creating an eBay store these days is not that difficult a task. Creating a custom eBay store is. So if you're thinking of starting an eBay business, or even if you're a titanium power seller, let the professional team at AuctionProTemplates.com create a custom eBay store for you.
Welcome once again to another episode of So You Want to Sell on eBay. I'm Ron LeBeau.
And I'm Ali Young.
All right, we've got a very good show for you today, and we've got our guest, Leah Hinkle, on. How you doing, Leah?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing well, thanks.
It's great to have you with us, Leah. Look forward to a good old shit chat.
Yep. So Leah and her husband, Gary, started selling on eBay in 2011, and within 6 months, they were not only power sellers, they were also top-rated sellers. They opened an eBay store and currently have over 800 items for sale. They sell a variety of items and especially love selling Christmas decorations. So, Leah, we've talked a little bit about what you do, but tell us a little bit more about your personal life. I know you got Gary as a husband there, and you probably take care of him full-time, right? But what else would you like to share with us?
Well, I ran a in-home daycare for 15 years, took care of kids, and started the eBay gig on the side as a way to make some extra money. You know, hope that something would come out of it, which it did, and the opportunity arose for me to close my daycare and kind of start a different career path, I guess you could say.
Okay, so that's kind of got to be a good feeling, right? Because the daycare thing probably was a good fit for you for 15 years, but I can only imagine, it's probably run its course, right? So probably for the last couple of years anyhow, you were probably thinking about doing something different. Is that correct?
Yes, well, I had thought on and off about doing something different from daycare. I got into daycare when my son was really young. I have one son, Aaron, who's 20 now, and at the time I got into doing daycare, he was, I think, 4 or 5 years old. And so I wanted to be at home with him, put him on the bus, that kind of thing, rather than shipping him off to daycare. And so I thought, well, I'll open a daycare, which I never dreamed of doing, but I did it just to, take care of him. And so over the years, I kind of felt like at times that I wanted to do something else. So, I would look for jobs and such, and just nothing would ever pan out. So when we got into eBay, I didn't think it would work to begin with, and people had told me about selling before that, and I thought, oh, yeah, sure, whatever. I don't have time for it, etc. And when we got into it, I thought, maybe this is my out, and I like doing it, and I've not that I didn't like daycare, but like you said, it had run its course, and my son, like I said, is 20 now. He graduated college, and he was the reason I got into daycare. So maybe you call it a midlife crisis or a midlife path change. I don't know what you call it, but I am in a time in my life where I wanted to do something different. eBay has presented that opportunity to me, so.
You didn't run out and get a Harley, did you?
No, not yet.
Still plenty of time.
I have a convertible. I don't know, but yeah. No Harley yet.
Not close.
Close-ish. So that's the sort of great thing about then, the eBay, that you could actually have that job where you're working at home and still be doing something different, like selling online with eBay. It's a good way they sort of mix together and somehow.
Yeah, I mean, when we started selling on eBay, we had an extra bedroom, so we were like, we put everything in there. Of course, it was a lot of work because after daycare, my husband and I, Gary, would bring the items out, so we'd have our little table where we would list things, and we would package them and ship whatever we'd sold that day, and take it to the post office the next. So it was really convenient for us. It just grew and grew, and you were talking about the power selling and the top rated selling. That's something we never set out. We didn't really have any goals when we started it. We just kind of fell into it, and we thought, this will be cool. Let's just buy something and see if it'll sell. I mean, so we just kind of stumbled into it. So we started out with no goals. We just started making money. My PayPal account would have money in it, and we're like, wow, this is great. And so what else can we buy and sell? And, it just kind of snowballed. And then before long, eBay was telling me that, wow, you're a power seller. I'm like, I don't even know what that means, but great,
but
I'm
hey.
a power seller. Hey, And then before long, they're saying, well, you're going to be top rated, or, well, I think at the time it was just top seller or something, but they've changed that. But I'm like, wow, I don't even know what that means either, So my feedback's really good. I know that because I watch it, but. So, we're not the most graceful people. We just kind of fell into all of this.
But that's a good point, though, Leah. I mean, because there's a lot of people listening right now that are in a similar situation as you. And, we need for our listeners to hear that, you started selling one thing at a time here. What else can I sell kind of thing, and found out that, look at you, without even trying, became a top-rated seller. And the thing is, I guarantee you it wasn't easy. I promise you, I know that. But the fact of the matter is a little at a time can build up and build up and build up. And next thing you know, you actually have an eBay business. And it's really kind of a cool concept, right?
Yeah. I mean, I had never, ever thought, my husband and I had played with the idea for a long time. We'd like to have our own business, but, there was always the how do we have a business and keep our jobs? Because, as well as I do, you can't just step into a business without rent and, utilities and your merchandise, and then you got to have time to run it. And I need an income to pay my bills at home, and so people will say to me, they're like, well, how do you know what to sell? And I'm like, I don't, even though I've been doing it we've been doing it for like 3 years. We have now, of course, we have some experience with it, but on the fun side of it, because we try to keep it fun, is I'll say, oh, well, that's cheap. Let's buy it. Maybe it'll sell. And then, boom, if it sells, we're like, oh, great, wow, we've learned something. Or if it doesn't sell, then we ship it off to the auction and they sell it again, It's just something we just stumbled into. And I tell people that all the time. I said, you have your own stuff in your home. Just try and list it. And I think the shipping part scares people the most. And so they, that's kind of what scared me in the beginning. So that kind of steered me away from it. Even though I'd had people tell me, oh, you should do this. I'm like, I don't know anything about the especially the shipping part. And I think that's what a lot of people are scared away from. And, and I'll tell them now, I say, it's fun and it's exciting to see how much money you can make, but it is a lot of work. I don't lie to people and tell them, oh, it's just great, it's so easy, which to me it is easy now, but it is a lot of work. But
absolutely.
But it's great. We do have our own business, so that, it's kind of outside the box thinking, I guess, now. But
it really is. And, you do have a business. I mean, it's a tangible business, right? I mean, and you have bills that you have to pay, and you probably, have a store, so you have, an eBay store fees and things like that. But you have a legitimate business, and it's the cheapest way that I know to get a business. The one thing I have heard is there's an eBay seller, and I can't think of who it is right now, but you were talking about going around the house and grabbing things and selling them. He takes a laundry basket and goes around his house and fills that laundry basket and sells those eBay things. And then when he's done selling those, then he goes and does it again, right? So, and I'm sure that if everybody listening to this went and did that method, eBay would blow up with all the things we're selling, right? Because it's just amazing how just a quick walk through your house, and next thing you know, you've got 10, 15 things for sale, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you just walk into resale shops. I'm amazed at when I would go into a resale shop how many clothes there are. I mean, people have tons of clothes. And, you're talking about going through the house. A person, especially a woman, probably like me, could go through her closet and just be like, heck, I haven't worn that in like ages. So I could put that on eBay, and not even miss it. So, yeah.
Right. And you mentioned shipping. Shipping for a dress or something lightweight like that probably wouldn't be a big deal, right?
Oh, yeah. No, that's right. And I actually had that conversation with a lady the other night. She's wanting me to show her how to sell on eBay. And I'm like, yeah, she said, the shipping scares me to death. I said, well, whenever I come, because we're going to do a face-to-face, I said, pick out something that's not too hard. Don't pick the breakables first, because, it just breaks my heart when something gets broken. And tends to happen. So.
Yeah, these things happen. I mean, you're sort of powerless over that part of things as well.
Yeah.
So along your business here, have you sort of had anyone who you've looked up to, or someone who's sort of given you lots of advice, sort of to help you get where you are today?
Not in the business sense, no. I do talk with people at auctions. Shortly after Gary and I started doing this, we were at auctions, and you kind of get a sense of I bet people are buying this for something like selling, and so they started recognizing, and I will go up to people and ask them, are you selling this online? And they kind of look at you, sometimes, or sometimes they'll go, oh yeah, and so I might pick their brain, and ask them, so do you have a store? And I did that, and came across the lady early on. She had a store, and kind of talking about it with her, she kind of, led me to a little later on, and I opened a store on eBay. So not anyone really. I just Gary and I, we just kind of jumped into this and started listing things and learning and beating our heads up against the wall at times, and just be like, oh my gosh, why are we doing this? Especially when someone gets frustrated with us or upset, and or an item gets broken, and and they're really upset with us. We especially in the early on, we're like, oh, is this really a good idea? But we just kind of plowed through it, and when we had low selling days, we just like, well, it's just a low selling day, it's fine, and just keep going.
That's great advice. That gives people motivation. That sort of lets them know that sort of don't quit. And it sounds like you just did trial and error then. You sort of like tried something out. If it worked, it worked. If it didn't, you moved on, sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, we never started. The first thing I bought to resell was a pair of women's boots. I saw them there, and of course I'd had people talking to me about eBay off and on, before that, and so the idea was kind of there, way pushed back in the back of my mind, but also, thinking, oh, I don't know how to do it, I don't want to learn how, and etc. But I saw these boots this day at Resale, and I love boots, so I was like, oh, let's try these babies on, and so I tried them on, and I'm like, no, they're too big for me. I was like, like I needed another pair of boots, but
exactly.
Hey, they were great. So I looked at the maker of them, and they were Vera Wang, and I knew Vera Wang from Kohl's. So I thought, and I don't know, I just had that moment whenever it just popped into my mind. I thought, wow, I wonder if, even though I can't wear them, I wonder if somebody else would buy them. Right. And the best part of it was they were $1. And so I bought them. Yeah. Wow. So I thought, what the hey? And of course, here was the unbreakable part, so I didn't have to worry about that. But I thought, I had no earthly idea what I was doing. I just got onto eBay, listed them. They didn't sell for a huge amount, but I mean, $10 off of a $1 investment. Yeah. It's like, wow, that's what, 1,000% or something like that.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, so it didn't start out, gangbusters. I didn't have a really big item, but that all I needed was that thought of thinking kind of outside of myself, like, and I'll tell Gary, and sometimes Gary will tell me, now, Leah, you're not buying it for yourself, because I'll have,
Stop wearing it.
Okay, so I do sometimes, but anyway. But I mean, when we're buying things out, yard sales, auctions, whatever, I try to think about, or I'll look at something and I'm like, good grief, I would never buy that. And, I have to remind myself, or he reminds me, you're not buying for yourself. You're buying for someone else, and someone else might buy it. And so that's where we have to think, is outside of ourselves. And that really helps, I think. And it also helps me in the way that I deal with people whenever, like, they message me, or when we have a problem with an item, and I if it's my fault, I jump in and take responsibility for it. Try to treat them as, hopefully, as I would want to be treated, and sometimes that doesn't happen. The reciprocation doesn't happen, but for the most part, I found most people are very appreciative understanding and appreciative of the stance that I take. So I think all of that said, just kind of thinking outside myself and thinking about other people, I don't know, it just been a real benefit, I think, to our business. So.
Well, great. So that's a lot of good information there. And so let's turn it a little bit here and talk about a failure, something that didn't go well for you, right? So obviously, you talk about staying away from breakables or something like that at the beginning. But what kind of a failure do you have that you can share with anyone listening right now? And how did you overcome that?
Well, it was probably my first negative feedback, and I can't tell you exactly what it was, but I'm sure it was probably in the breakables department because, my husband and I tend to buy things that just think, oh, wow, great, this will probably sell, and we don't stop and think, yeah, it could break or it's really going to be hard to ship. But I remember getting my first negative feedback or, whether the person communicated with me or not. Some people will just go on and leave negative feedback without talking to us and, saying this happened or we don't know anything about it or whatever. But yeah, I mean, for a person who's just starting out in the eBay business, we want everybody to be happy. We want them to like what we're selling. We want to do our best describing it, taking the pictures, etc. And to get our first negative feedback, it was like, oh my goodness, it was just heartbreaking. And I tell people now when I talk to them or about doing eBay and stuff or helping them, set up a store or whatever, I say, you're going to have a negative feedback once in a while. You're going to have somebody that just won't, you just can't make them happy, I guess you could say, or whatever. But I just tell them, I said, I know you hate it, and you gotta moan and groan about it for a little while. I can't believe they did that. I can't believe whatever. But you just have to move on. And so, and even at being top-rated seller, we had, I think it was last Christmas, just a series of events and we had our most negative feedback we had probably within a month, and that was really hard for us because, it put our top-rated seller status in danger, and, it made us feel bad, just plain out bad because for whatever reason, we had like 3 or 4 negative feedbacks, and I think we only have maybe 5 or 6, but, it was just hard. Negative feedback hurts, so.
It does, yeah, and I know a lot of eBay people try to work very hard on keeping that, from not being negative feedback. But like you said, sometimes you can do your best, and if that's not enough, then it's tough. You can't please everyone in life, and but by the sounds of it, you have that customer service. You try to find a solution. You try to work with it. But today, is it a major thing? I mean, I remember when I first got my negative feedback, it was huge for me. It's like, no, how could someone do this to me? Unbelievable. Yeah. But after time, you don't get very much bad feedback because you get better at what you do. But is it so important now? I mean, does it make you worry as much?
I think that eBay is becoming more, how do I want to say it? I mean, we have 99.6%. I think we post, maybe in the last year, we've had 1,000 feedback, and so we've had maybe 5, I'm not sure the exact numbers, negatives, but and with the new changes that eBay is making to the standards, we're really close to losing our top-rated seller status. So, wow. I mean, so that bothers me. I really like eBay, but my negative criticism would be that I believe eBay is gearing itself more and more toward larger sellers. Someone that is selling 2 and 3 times as much as I'm selling. A 5 negative feedback is not going to affect them, and making them lose top-rated seller status, which you guys probably know carries 20% discount, for fees. Yep. So that can be a lot of money every month to save, So that would be my one complaint about them is the smaller sellers like me, and I consider myself to be extremely small. Even if 5 feedback, in a year puts me in danger of losing my top-rated seller status, that's difficult for me. So.
Yeah. I can see that. So what about, let's turn it now then. What about a success story? I mean, we've heard your failure. What about something that this is your success? This is the moment that you sort of felt like, yes, this is possible. This is going to happen.
Let's see. Well, lots of crazy stories, but I guess probably.
I love them. Please tell us.
I could talk all day about eBay. I love to talk to people about eBay because it's just, I don't know, it's just amazing. But probably one of our best accomplishments that we've had would be my husband and I went to an auction it was probably a year or two ago, and it was really cold, like March, and you think, well, nobody'd be there, but there were a lot of people at this auction, but we had come across it the night before, and this was kind of built on some previous experience that we'd had. We had sold about 24 porcelain figurines made by Home Interiors, and Home Interiors is no more. The company is, closed. So these figurines, people have collected them or whatever, and they like them, and so, basically eBay is the only place to get them, like lots of other things. But we had sold about 24 of them right at the beginning of our selling, and that kind of spurred us on to, ooh, wow, this is great. So in maybe about 6 to 8 months after that, we came across this auction where this lady had, she must have owned every Home Interior figurine that they ever made because, just saw these pictures and we're like, oh, we've just got to go to this. So we go, and like I said, it's probably March, and it's like freezing cold. And this gentleman was moving to town, and so they were selling off, his wife had passed some time before that, and they were selling off all of her personal items and then and a lot of his. So they actually were running 2 auction rings that day, and so we were over with the auction wagons with the women's stuff, I guess you could say. But the auction company had been really, I was kind of frustrated at that time with them because they had been devious and they had strewn all of these figurines that I wanted to buy over probably 6 auction wagons.
Oh, wow.
So they're intermingled with dishes and the like, and stuff. And I'm like, after I had found the auction, I had gone on to eBay and I had said, okay, Home Interior figurines, and to see what there were, what they might be going for. I needed an idea of what I'm going to try to buy them for, and et cetera. And I get there, and I can't even count how many she's got. And I'm like, holy Toledo, there's these figurines upon figurines upon figurines. So I thought, okay, well, here we go. So I just started buying them. And my husband, he's the one standing there saying, are you sure you should be buying these? Are you sure you should be buying these? And so I would buy them, and they would sell them maybe 1, 2, 3 at a time. And so my husband would take them and put them in the truck for me. And so I just kept, and I knew there was a set of 4 that I wanted to buy. And I didn't know, in the flurry of buying, I didn't know if I, had gotten them all, but was trying to do my best, and I thought, I can't buy all these figurines, but so I did not. But at the same time, when we got home, we counted them. I had bought 58 statues.
Wow.
Yeah, 58 statues. I had spent the most I'd ever spent in an auction. And we had a truck full of stuff, so I'm like, oh my goodness, what have I done? And so I started listing them, found that a lot of them were not on eBay, because when I tried to pull up comparables, I couldn't. And so I thought, and at this time I was new that I was listing things as auctions and rather than buy it nows, which is a really good thing. That I was afraid to just do buy it nows, because that wouldn't have been a good idea. People went nuts over them, and they found out that I had more than one, because I listed probably within 2 or 3 days, I got all 58 of them listed.
Wow, how cute.
That's crazy. I don't know. I just worked. After daycare, I would just, we spent like $450 at that auction that day buying figurines and some other things. And in I list them so that they would go off. And even at that time, I didn't know what was the best day to have them go off. So I was actually having them go off on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, which Sunday's the best time. But $1,200 in a weekend is what we made off of those.
Kudos.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And so then, I guess the long story to say, we thought that this might go somewhere.
Wow.
So,
See, Ali asks the tough questions. I get the easy ones, right? So
this is the fun ones. I don't want to talk about
it sounds adventurous. I love it.
Yeah, and I just have a question for you on that. I mean, how many times did Gary say, Leah, remember, you're not buying this for you?
No, he didn't have to say it then. I didn't want them.
Awesome.
Oh, cool.
Awesome. All right, so let's talk about your current eBay business. I mean, obviously you started out selling one thing. You just bought a whole bunch of figurines, and you successfully sold them. What is your business doing now? What do you got going on now with your eBay business?
Well, we're looking to Christmas, actually. And in the last couple of years, we learned that Christmas is a big, big selling time of Christmas decorations, especially vintage ones. And I say vintage, probably 80s. I don't do a lot of antiques. I do a lot of Christmas decorations, and people are just nuts over that kind of stuff. So that's what I'm listing right now, and people think I'm nuts when I'm telling them, what are you selling on eBay? Well, I'm listing Christmas items, and they're thinking, yeah, it's not Christmas time yet, but you would be surprised. We've already started selling some items. So, yeah, that's really exciting. And last year we stumbled upon the ugly Christmas sweater rage that has been going around for a long time that I didn't know about. But this year I decided to make my own. So I have made some and put lights on them and the whole 9 yards. And so those are what I'm really excited about listing, because they are definitely going on auction. And I'm going to tap into the craziness that is ugly Christmas sweaters and see where they will go. So
did you say ugly Christmas sweaters?
Ugly Christmas sweaters. Yes,
wow,
they
so
have.
People buy them, do they?
Yes, they have parties. It's a thing. You go to a party and they judge to see which one of the sweaters is ugliest.
Yeah, just so you know, Leah, Ali's in Thailand. Okay, so he doesn't know about the ugly.
Over there.
We don't even wear sweatshirts.
I see.
It's so hot here that we would never wear sweatshirts in our life.
These are sweaters,
let alone ugly ones.
Well, that's a great thing. You can make it and make it as ugly as you want. The uglier, the better. So, see, there's no talent in that. You just slap some glue on, some lights, some bunch of stencils, some
maybe a license plate or something.
Yeah, whatever you want. Yeah.
If you can send us an image, I'd love to put that on our show notes page just to show it. It'd be brilliant.
Okay, I can do that. I'll look through my old ones. Yeah.
It's now time for the lightning round, but before we do, let's thank our sponsors.
So you're wondering how you can grow your business, yet your website is currently being hosted by one of those website in a box sites, or maybe you don't have a website. Well, if you're really serious about growing your business, then maybe it's time to get serious about who is hosting your website. Bluehost is your answer. At Bluehost, you get complete hosting solutions for as little as $4.95 per month. And while that is inexpensive, it certainly is not cheap. You get unlimited domain hosting, unlimited space, unlimited bandwidth, and much more. Bluehost has the top-rated 24/7 support team of real experts ready to offer real solutions and advice. And if that weren't enough, at Bluehost, you will never sign a contract. Go to www.soyouwannasellonebay.com/Bluehost today and take your business to a whole new level.
Leah, and this is where we're going to ask you a series of questions, and you can answer them how you want to. You can answer them quickly or as elaborate as you'd like, okay?
Okay.
So what was your biggest fear of starting an eBay business?
Oh, that I'd make a mistake, that I couldn't ship things, that people would get upset with me, basically, yeah. Make a big mistake.
Yeah, that's a very common answer, that one, actually, to that question. Made that mistake.
Yeah.
So, yeah, exactly, it's just fear. So what's one piece of advice you could give someone just starting their eBay business?
Oh, don't be afraid.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't have the fear I just mentioned, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and people think, well, I don't know what to sell. It doesn't matter. Just try something. That's the great thing about it. And, and if you mess up, you're really the only one that's going to know.
Well,
anyway.
Unless you sell your wife's favorite jewelry or something.
That
might
then
get
you're in the doghouse.
All right, Leah, so if you had the chance to start all over with the knowledge about eBay and just to having a business in general that you have now, what would you do differently?
Oh, I would have got started a long, long time ago. A long time ago. Yeah.
So when you started your eBay business, how much confidence did you have that you could actually make money from it?
Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, I was really skeptical. People had been telling me, that, this and this, and I only bought a few things on eBay, so, I maybe had 100 feedback when I started. Now we've got 2,000 and something or other, so, I had no confidence.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? There's a lot of people listening to us right now that have no confidence. And, you went from 0 to 100 to now 2,000 feedback. And, our message here to anyone who is thinking about starting an eBay business is, like you said, just get out and do it. As I mentioned before, this is the easiest business to run because getting in and getting out is no big deal. If it doesn't work for you, you don't lose anything. You may have sold a couple items, so give it a shot is my take on that. Mm-hmm. All right, so there's a lot of people giving free shipping on all their items, and maybe just most of their items. So what is your take on free shipping? Do you offer free shipping on all your products, some of your products, or not at all?
Very little. No, I don't. I don't even delve into that.
Okay, that's good too, because a lot of people believe that unless I give it away, unless I give the shipping away, then I'll never sell anything. And you've got 2,000 positive feedback to prove otherwise. And that's just, bear in mind, listeners, that just means that she has 2,000 people that actually gave her feedback. She actually has more sales than that. Not everybody does give feedback.
Yeah, I was noticing that. I think I have actually 4,000 sales.
Yeah, it's very common that not everyone gives feedback. So I know, talking about feedback, I know we mentioned it earlier, but to what extent do you go to get that bad, negative feedback taken away? Do you contact them? I mean, I know you've explained it a bit already, but is there a particular part that you will phone them up, or will you contact them by email? Hey, what's the problem? How can we help, sort of thing?
No, I never have. I've just taken it.
Oh, you've just taken it?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay. I'll take it like a man.
Well, sometimes it's different ways. I mean, sometimes, I've worked with the person, hoping that they didn't, I'll make it right with them, and sometimes I'll still even get negative feedback. So I really, I feel bad about it, and I try to do. Sometimes I'll respond to their feedback maybe and say on the feedback thing and say, hey, I refunded them, or I, tried to, work with them or something, or they were unresponsive or whatever, just to try to, help people to look at it. But at the same time, I think people, if they'll scroll through my feedback, they'll see that, I'll have positive, tons of positives and then a negative. And then tons of positives and maybe a neutral, which I got one of those the other day, and they didn't contact me about it, and I was a little miffed about that. But anyway, at least those don't count against me. But so I kind of look at it with the attitude that I use whenever I look at someone else's feedback. I'll look at their feedback, and of course, if I see a lot of negatives, then I'm going to rethink buying from them. But if I see an occasional feedback, and sometimes the seller then will have responded to them and tried to explain, or just an occasional negative, I take the attitude that, not everyone, like Ali said, not everyone's going to be pleased,
Absolutely.
and you're not going to please everyone. And so, I kind of take it with a grain of salt myself. So.
Yeah, and I think that's good advice. I mean, if you look in an eBay store and you see that most of the feedback is positive, great seller, and you see one guy say the color of the box wasn't like he described it or something, I mean, there's going to be those people out there, right? You just can't please everyone.
Yeah, that's the way my neutral was. The box of the item. It was a Wii game, and the game was good. Little accessory was good. The box was torn, so I was given a neutral feedback, and I'm like, I would have been happy that the game worked,
Absolutely. Yeah, that box you just threw away? You gave me a neutral for that, right?
Yeah.
All right. talking about research here, and I know you talked about at the auction you had an app on your phone that you wanted to check for those figurines, but what kind of research do you do to confirm your products are going to sell on eBay?
Just basically, I just check eBay. A lot of times, like I said, I'll check on my phone, and a lot of times, I might be in a situation where I just have to like go with a gut, thinking, oh, it'll sell, or if it doesn't, then I'll run it through the auction or something. Sometimes, Ollie, though, it is one of those cases where if it doesn't sell, I get to keep it.
Is that secret plan?
I know it.
So you buy a pair of boots.
Please don't sell.
Let me see if I got this right. You buy a pair of boots for a good price that fit you perfectly, and then you way overcharge. You have a buy it now price of 3 times of what it. Yeah, okay, I got you. Gary, you listening to this?
I will tell you, Gary, that's the way we had this. We had this deal. We agreed upon this a long time ago, and so. Gary says, I'm not going to say I like something because after you list it, it's going to sell. And so we used to have this running joke where I bet I knew he liked it, but I'd go ahead and list it. And he'd come home from work, and I'm like, I am not telling you what sold, okay? I am not telling you what sold. He's like, my stuff sold, didn't it? I said, yes. And I said, but that's the deal. Because, we'd both be pack rats if that didn't happen. So, anyway.
I love it. Yeah, I love that. So on building your empire and running your eBay, do you use any specific tools? I mean, do you use TurboList to list your products, or do you have any management tools? Or
I played with TurboLister before, but I've never really, gotten into it where I love it. Just basic QuickBooks, that's all I do. But I've never really gotten into TurboLister. I just go on and list and.
Just using eBay normal listing process.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No. That's sometimes that is the quicker and easiest way. I know many people who do it that way. And you just fill out the description. You just type stuff out, or do you have a little template?
Sometimes, or I try to, especially like now with my Christmas listings, I like to sell a lot of Christmas stockings, and so I will start, with my first listing. I'll do my stocking listing, and then basically it'll be going back and selling a similar item, and just changing my title, just changing my measurements of the stockings because they might be a different size, and changing my pictures. And, those will ship first class. So, it's just the weight is probably going to be about the same. So I can just do it that way. And I can turn them out pretty quickly. Yeah.
Oh, it sounds like you got a system set down.
I try to. A little bit.
Yeah, you need something like that. Well, that's the end of the lightning round, and sadly, it's time to say goodbye. We'd like to thank our special guest, Leah Hinkle, for taking the time to come join us today. And I'll tell you what, it's been great talking with you. The way I can tell by the way you talk, you have such passion for this, and you sort of have this trial and error approach at the beginning, and it's been really great listening to someone who's successful on eBay.
Well, great. Thank you. I've enjoyed it. I love talking about eBay.
Yeah,
awesome.
I can tell.
Yeah, thanks, Leah. We certainly appreciate your time, and we appreciate your co-pilot there, Gary, as well. And if you're listening now and you have a question you'd like a guest to answer on our show, check the Ask the Experts section on our website.
Well, we'll post all the notes from today's interview on our show notes page, which can be found at www.soyouwantasellonebay.com/show notes/Leah Hinkle. But before you go, Leah, please tell our listeners out there, how can they contact you? What's the best way to reach you?
Well, my eBay store is Hinkle's Antiques and Collectibles, and I'm also on Facebook, Leah Hinkle, and I'm sure I'll probably be doing some more social media in the future. So
cool. We look forward to it. We'll put all those links on the show notes page, so you can just go there and click on that and be able to contact up there with Leah. Well, we wish you continued success, and thanks once again for joining us. From everyone here at So You Want to Sell on eBay, I'm Ali Young.
And I'm Ron LeBeau.
If you are an online merchant, chances are you've heard of Terapeak. Terapeak helps online merchants like you by providing in-depth analytics to help you pull back the curtain on your competitors' behavior, pricing techniques and strategies, supply and demand, category and product trends, and customer purchase patterns. Sound intense? It is. Terapeak is the leader in e-commerce market analysis, dedicated to helping online merchants grow their business and become more profitable. How cool would it be if you could know the new and emerging opportunities? Terapeak delivers market intelligence that is both meaningful and actionable. Terapeak analyzes over 2.4 billion transactions per year. How many of those will be yours next year? After all, if your competitors see the value in Terapeak, shouldn't you? Go to www.soyouwannasellonebay.com/Terapeak to sign up today.
Well, that's a wrap to another awesome show. Don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes at soyouwannasellonebay.com/iTunes. Follow us on Twitter at Your eBay Podcast and Facebook at So You Wanna Sell on eBay. And we can always be found at www.soyouwannasellonebay.com.